I fasten the last balloon string to the white wooden fence. My fingers numb from the October wind of Portland. Sunlight filters through the maple leaves, scattering golden patches across the long table draped in pink cloth. 9 sets of paper plates shaped like crowns are neatly arranged, each napkin folded like a flower petal. In the corner, the lavender bounce castle hums softly in the breeze, a $275 gift I'm still paying off in 2 installments. The scent of vanilla drifts from the Princess Galaxy cake, mixing with the faint squeak of balloons rubbing together like short breaths. Before we begin, tell me, where are you watching from? I read every single comment. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to join me in stories about justice, boundaries, and courage. Now, let's continue the story. I step back a few paces, taking in the scene I've created. Everything looks perfect except for the backyard, still as empty as if forgotten. The clock on the wall reads 11:42. My mother, Diane, and my 2 sisters, Amber and Sienna, were supposed to arrive at 10 to help inflate balloons. The message from last night still sits on my phone. Don't worry, sis. I'll handle the flowers and music. Below it, a red heart emoji from Mom. Now there are no flowers. No music. Only the wind and the slow quieting of my heart. The sliding door opens. Ellie runs out, her purple dress fluttering. Mommy, is it time yet? Where are Grandma and Aunt Amber? Did they see the castle I kneel to fix the ribbon in her hair? The strawberry shampoo scent clinging to my fingertips. They're probably stuck in traffic. Sweetheart, it's the weekend in Portland, traffic everywhere. She nods, running toward the gate, eyes fixed on the small hill leading to the road. I watch her fade into sunlight, small, hopeful, and fragile enough to make me look away. In the kitchen, the kettle screams, steam fogs up the glass. I check my phone. Sighing, a notification appears. Diane, Mom, don't overdo it. It's just a kid's birthday. I read it again, and again. Each time, the cold in my chest deepens. Just a kid, that's what they used to say about me too. When I chose accounting instead of Mom's carefully planned path. When I carried Ellie without her father. When I worked double shifts just to pay rent. They always had a way of making everything I did seem small. Mom, Ellie bakes in, eyes bright. Did anyone come yet? I force a smile. Soon. Sweetheart, go play a little longer. When the door closes, my smile does too. The doorbell rings. I wipe my hands on my apron. Heart racing. Maybe it's them. Maybe. But it's only Aunt Ruth gray sweater. Gift box wrapped in purple paper in hand. Happy birthday. Little princess. Ellie squeals, hugging her, though her eyes still dart toward the street. Where's Grandma and Aunt Amber? Aunt Sienna. Aunt Ruth hesitates, glancing at me. Something between pity and anger flickers in her eyes. They're a bit busy. Sweetheart. But I'm here now. Ellie smiles thin, like a thread. I feel my heartbeat go still. The first parent drops off their kid near noon. Children's songs play from a tiny Bluetooth speaker. The smell of cake mixes with barbecue smoke from next door. Kids laugh. I run and jump inside the bounce castle. Ellie laughs too, but every time the iron gate creaks, her shoulders lift slightly, then fall, like a small wave hitting shore, then fading. I keep smiling, snapping pictures nonstop. In the frame, Ellie blows out candles, but behind her stretches a wide, empty space, where my mother and sisters should have been. In the kitchen, Aunt Ruth slices banana bread, the cinnamon scent filling the air. She says softly, "People who can't keep their word don't deserve to hold yours." Claire. I smile faintly, voice trembling. Easy for you to say. Easy. Because I used to be your mother's sister. Her words drop heavy, rippling quietly inside me. Evening. The party's over. Sunlight slants low, shadows swallowing the backyard. Ellie sits on the steps, hugging her new sketchbook, Aunt Ruth's gift. With a purple cover and silver words, "Shine anyway." "Mommy." I finished my drawing. I sit beside her, looking at it, two people holding hands under a rainbow. "Did Grandma really forget my birthday?" she asks, without looking up. I want to say no, but my throat locks. Maybe she got busy. I whisper, "But you know what? Someone showing up is worth more than any present." Ellie looks up, smiling thin as sunlight, then bends again to shade the rainbow deeper in purple. I stand and start cleaning the table. A porcelain plate slips, crashes into the sink, and splits clean in two. The dry crack rings sharply through the silence. Just then, my phone lights up. The group chat Mercer family has sent a PDF file. "Amber, can you double-check this for me? You're listed as the deposit holder." A luxury hotel logo fills the screen, the Ashbury Terrace. I open it. The first bold line reads Platinum Sponsor, Claire Benton. Beside it, the amount $1,950. I stare at it for a long time. Cold air seems to pour down my collar. Outside, Ellie still laughs, coloring the purple rainbow, the paint bleeding, running wet across the page before it can dry. I tighten my grip on the phone, palm damp with sweat. A single thought sharpens cold. Clear, like a blade catching evening light. Enough. I open Venmo. The name Diane Mercer glows in my recent contacts. In the amount field, I type $1. In the note, "For integrity," one tap, and from that moment, I knew I would never again be the good daughter. My phone screen stayed lit, casting a cold, metallic glow across my face. The line Platinum Sponsor, Claire Benton, sat bold and smug in the middle of the PDF, with the number $1,950 displayed clearly beside the golden logo of the Ashbury Terrace. Outside the window, Portland had begun to rain. Raindrops struck the glass steady. Slow. Deliberate. I set the phone down on the wooden table, my fingers still trembling. The kettle hissed softly. The heat brushed my face. The scent of chamomile tea filled the kitchen sweet, but bitter at the back of my tongue. Ellie sat in the living room, sticking decals in her sketchbook, humming quietly. Each note she sang drew a fragile line between two worlds, innocence and exploitation. The Mercer family group chat lit up again. "Amber, you handle the deposit." "Okay," Mom said. "You're the most convenient." "Sienna, you know the drill." "Same as always." "Diane Claire, you're the eldest. This is about family honor. Don't make me remind you." I looked at the messages and felt myself being pulled 10 years back to the day. Mom said, "You studied accounting not to earn a living, but to carry this family." Back then, I believed her. Now, all I heard was the kettle whistling louder, like a warning about to spill over. I reopened the PDF and scrolled to payment details. My name sat right at the top, bolded next to primary payer. Just below it, the deadline: deposit due by 6:00 p.m. Today. A small line of text, sharp as a blade. I opened my banking app. Balance $4,213.47. Beside it, a note I'd written 3 months ago. Braces. Ellie. Divided by October. I tapped on it, my finger hesitating midair. The tea cooled, leaving a pale brown ring around the rim of the cup. The phone buzzed again. "Diane, you know I never ask for much, but family is family. You can't say no." "Amber, don't make this a big deal. Mom's right. Sienna, she's getting old. Claire, don't make her upset." 3 messages. 3 blades. I typed a few words, then erased them. 4 times. Ellie peeked out from the living room. "Mommy, my rainbow's dry now. Can I stick it on the wall?" Her voice shone like sunlight breaking through the rain. I smiled softly. Barely a breath. Of course. Sweetheart. Put it somewhere everyone can see. When she turned away, I opened Venmo. My finger slid through recent contacts. The name Diane Mercer sat right on top. I typed $1. Note, for integrity. I stared at the screen for a long time before pressing send. A softing clear. Final. I took a screenshot and saved it in a new folder titled Boundaries. It felt like closing a door that had been open far too long. Notifications flooded in immediately. Amber. What's this? Are you joking? Sienna Mom's crying. Claire, do you even care about us anymore, Diane? You're embarrassing me in front of my friends. Do you really think money means everything? I set the phone down. Didn't reply. Just listened to the rain growing heavier on the roof. The smell of wet earth drifted in through the crack in the door. I poured another cup of tea. The sound of water hitting porcelain matched my heartbeat slow. Steady. Fading lighter with each beat. The phone buzzed again. Diane, I've already booked the hotel. If you don't transfer the money, I'll handle it myself before 6. A small clock icon blinked beside the message. I looked up at the wall clock. The second hand ticked once click. 5:07 p.m. I stood by the window. The dim evening light washed over the neighboring roofs, reflecting off tightly shut windows. In the backyard, Aunt Ruth passed by under an umbrella. She stopped when she saw me, raised a hand, and smiled softly. I cracked open the window. You okay? She asked. I just nodded. She looked at me for a moment, then said gently, almost just for me. If you're shaking, that's a sign you're doing the right thing. I wanted to answer but only managed a long, quiet breath. She turned away, her figure shrinking in the rain. From the living room, Ellie's cartoon blared so bright, so pure. It made my eyes sting. I set the teacup down and opened the drawer. Inside was an old envelope labeled, "For emergencies." Only a few $20 bills left, and a photograph of me with my father when I was little. He used to say, "When you learn to say no, you'll never fear anyone again." The phone buzzed once more. Amber, so you're just ignoring us. Mom's about to call the hotel. I opened my laptop and checked my inbox. From the Ashbury Terrace Subject Confirmation Platinum Sponsor, Claire Benton. Below it, a small note read, "If this information is incorrect, please respond before 6:00 p.m. to verify." A chance. I placed my hand on the mouse. Me index finger hovering over reply. Thunder rumbled far away. Ellie ran over, hugging my leg. Mommy, did you see the rainbow I put up? I bent down, brushing her hair that still smelled faintly of soap. I did. Sweetheart, it's beautiful. Then I looked back at the screen. 5:42 p.m. My eyes fell again on the line in the email. If this information is incorrect, I took a deep breath and began typing. To the Ashbury Terrace. The name Claire Benton was used without authorization. Please remove it from your sponsor listing immediately. I hit send. A soft whoosh. Then silence. Outside. The rain stopped. I stood still for a long while, feeling like I had just reclaimed a piece of air I hadn't breathed in years. The house was so quiet I could hear the clock ticking, counting each second of newly found freedom. A new notification blinked on my phone. Unknown caller. Incoming. I hesitated for 1 second before answering. Mom's voice came through, low but icy enough to raise goosebumps. You just did something. You're going to regret it. Claire. On the other end. Her long exhale slid through the speaker like wind under a door, and I knew the real storm had just begun. After Mom hung up, the house sank into silence. Only the ticking of the wall clock remained slow. Steady. And cold as a pulse. I stood motionless by the window. The night outside thick and heavy. In the yard, the neighbor's porch light reflected across a puddle broken fragments. like pieces of memory demanding to return. I pulled open the wooden drawer beside the dining table, the one I'd been avoiding for months. Inside was an old shoebox tied with a silver ribbon. The corners frayed, stained by an old spill of tea. I set it on the table and untied the bow. The scent of old paper mixed with fading ink made my vision blur for a second. Inside receipts, envois, handwritten notes stacked like sedimented memories. On top was Amber's salon transfer slip, urgent. Just $1,650. I'll pay you back next month. In the bottom corner, my trembling signature, the pen nearly out of ink. Another sheet, printed from Venmo. $420 patio furniture, Mom. I remembered that day Mom said the old chairs were broken and needed to be replaced to look more sophisticated for guests. I had barely sent the money when Ellie started coughing, and I ran to the pharmacy. No one ever asked if I could afford it. The next was a hospital bill the day Ellie broke her arm. I had pawned my grandmother's silver ring and got $1,200, just enough to cover what insurance refused. Mom only said, "Don't be dramatic, it's just bad luck." But to me, it wasn't bad luck, it was the final limit. I laid each paper on the table, each one a slice, each number a crack hidden behind a smile. Under the stack lay a photo me, Dad, and my two sisters, taken in front of our old Beaverton house. Dad had his arm around me, smiling stiffly, while Mom looked away, speaking to someone outside the frame. I flipped it over, written in blue ink, in Dad's handwriting, "When you learn to say no, you'll never be afraid of anyone again." I closed my eyes. The rain outside blended with his voice, soft but certain. He left when I was 20. No goodbye. Just an envelope with a small check and a note. "Take care of yourself." Back then, I was angry. Now I understand maybe he, too, had been drained dry. Like I am now. I opened my laptop and scrolled through my work calendar. Every red box marked a family emergency. 14 days in 2 years. The first note: take Mom to her appointment. Next, help Sienna move. Then babysit Amber's kids while she's at the spa. In the corner, a small entry cut like a knife. Missed promotion interview. I laughed quietly, not because it was funny, but because it hurt. All my life, I've been paying the price for tickets other people call family duty. My phone lit up with a message. "Mrs. Daly. My elderly neighbor, I left a tray of pie on your porch. Don't come out in the cold. Fresh apple. Just baked." I looked outside and saw her in her blue wool coat, umbrella tilted, walking away. No blood. No shared name. Yet she remembered I liked apple pie. Meanwhile, my own mother, who gave birth to me, never remembered my walnut allergy. A second message tone. "James. A coworker. If you need tomorrow off, I'll cover your shift. Don't worry. I'll handle the payroll sheets." I reread the message. No requests. No debts disguised as love. Just presents, something my family never knew how to give. I turned back to the table. The warm light reflected on the wood grain. I opened Excel and began typing. My fingers moved fast. The clicks matched the clock's rhythm in the living room. March 2nd. Amber. Salon rent. $1,650. Pending. May 25th. Mom. Furniture. $420. Unpaid. December 14th. Christmas gifts. Family tradition. $840. N divided by A. Next line. Then another. The list stretched longer and longer. Numbers running off the screen. Ellie's laughter drifted from her room, bright, echoing down the hall, fading softly. I stopped, staring in her direction. For the first time in years, I felt afraid. Afraid she'd grow up learning to endure. Just like me. The phone lit up again. "Diane, Mom, you've truly disappointed me. Claire, money can be earned again, but family honor cannot. You're tearing yourself away from us. I read it slowly, word by word. A sermon wrapped in the glossy paper of morality. I inhaled deeply and replied, Mom, was Ellie's birthday worth it? The typing dots appeared, then disappeared. No reply, only silence long, heavy, and freeing. I tilted my head back, feeling my heartbeat fall into rhythm again. Outside, the rain had stopped. The air smelled of wet soil and lavender from Aunt Ruth's garden. I saved the Excel file, naming it Boundaries, Draft, XLSX. No totals yet. Didn't need to. I already knew this year alone. It was enough to buy another life. Hallway light spilled into Ellie's room, flickering across the wall covered in rainbows. I walked toward the door. She lay curled under her blanket, teddy bear pressed to her chest. Her small voice whispered, almost dreaming God, please make Grandma like me just a little bit more. I froze. My reaching hand withdrew, fingertips grazing the cold wooden frame. Didn't step in, just stood there, silent, letting each word pierce through me like a needle. The streetlight cut through the curtain, splitting my face in half. One side light, one side shadow, somewhere inside me. A vow formed quietly. This little girl will not grow up carrying the same wounds her mother did. I gently closed Ellie's door. In the dark hallway, the wind whistled through the window gap like the house itself, exhaling after holding its breath too long. Tonight, I won't sleep, because tomorrow, I begin untying the ropes that have strangled me for years. Portland's night was so still. It felt as if someone had turned down the volume of the world. The rain had stopped, leaving the yard slick with reflections from the streetlights. I sat alone in the kitchen, hands wrapped around a cup of cold tea. The thin steam rose and vanished into the air. From the next room came Ellie's quiet breathing, so soft you could only hear it when everything else was utterly silent. The box of receipts still lay open on the table, the creases and the smudged ink, like memories worn thin. My fingers brushed the hospital bill from the year Ellie broke her arm, tracing the faded number 1200 blurred by old tears. In the corner, the wall clock ticked slowly. Tick, tock, tick, tock, matching my heartbeat. Steady, trying only to keep going. Outside, the wind carried the damp scent of soil and Aunt Ruth's lavender from along the fence. I closed my eyes for a moment. The image of Ellie curled under her blanket came back, her tiny hands clasped together, her trembling voice whispering God, please make Grandma like me a little more. I had once prayed the same. At 8 years old, on a rainy night just like this, I sat inside a closet clutching a teddy bear, whispering, please let Mom look at me again, like she used to. Back then, I believed if I were better, quieter, smarter, she would smile at me. But I was wrong. Some people simply don't know how to love, no matter how hard you try to earn it. I opened the drawer and took out an old photo of my father. He was wearing a blue sweater, his arm around me. His tired but genuine smile caught mid-fade. I remembered his voice the day he dropped me off at college. Don't chase the ones who turn their backs on you, Claire, because when you do, you're the one walking away from yourself. I hadn't understood it then. Now, every word glowed like candlelight in a dark room. I took a deep breath and opened the small notebook on the table. The first page was blank. I picked up a pen and began to write not letters of blame, but letters of gratitude. Thank you, Aunt Ruth, for showing up whenever the house stayed silent too long. Thank you, James, for swapping shifts without ever needing a reason. Thank you, Mrs. Daly, for the apple pie, and for reminding me that I'm still seen. The sound of the pen scratching across paper was soft and rhythmic, like rain returning. For the first time in days, my chest felt light. I stacked the 3 letters neatly, tied them with brown string, and set them beside my teacup. The scent of new paper blended with the old tea, a strange fragrance, both warm and sad. When I stood up, moonlight slipped through the curtain and painted a thin silver line across the wall. I walked toward Ellie's room. The door was half closed, a slice of orange nightlight spilling through. She'd turned in her sleep, still hugging her worn-out teddy. On her desk, the rainbow drawing hung on the wall, slightly crooked, but beautiful. The next morning, the smell of waffles filled the kitchen. Ellie stumbled in, hair messy, fumbling with her pajama buttons. "Mommy," she asked, "is Grandma still mad at me?" I paused mid-pour with the milk jug. The innocent question weighed heavier than any accusation. I turned, knelt, and fixed her collar. No one's ever angry at someone who's true to themselves. "Sweetheart." Ellie looked up, her big blue eyes reflecting the morning sun through the window. She nodded once, saying nothing more. I watched as she went to her table and opened her paint box. Her brush glided across the paper, light as breath. I saw myself in that movement, once starting with bright colors, then learning to cover them with darker shades, just to please others. Not anymore. I opened the window. Cold air swept in, carrying the scent of wet grass after rain. The Portland sky was an impossible blue, with thin clouds drifting like smoke. Light fell through the window across the table. The teacup, and the 3 letters I had written in the night. The small kitchen glowed. Maybe true light doesn't come from outside. Maybe it begins the moment we stop being afraid. Sparrows chirped along the fence. Ellie ran barefoot into the yard, stepping on the wet grass. "Mommy, look, there's a rainbow on the water." I stepped out, seeing sunlight reflected in a puddle, forming a soft halo of colors. Her laughter rang through the morning clear, bright, dissolving into the air. For that moment, I wanted to freeze time. I went back inside and picked up the 3 envelopes. One for Aunt Ruth, one for James, one for Mrs. Daly. I placed them beside my purse tonight. After work, I would deliver them. Before leaving, I paused before my father's photograph on the wall. The sunlight touched the glass, casting a narrow reflection onto the floor. I smiled softly. "I understand now." "Dad." A small ding broke the calm, the sound of an email notification. My phone screen lit up. From the Ashbury Terrace subject, legal follow-up request. My heart sank. Beneath the subject line, one short sentence. "Please respond within 24 hours regarding the unauthorized sponsorship listing." I looked at the clock. The second hand moved slowly. Tick, tock, tick, tock. But the light in the room suddenly felt colder. I pulled out a chair, sat down, and opened my laptop. The email icon blinked like a warning signal. Outside, the sky was still clear, the sun still warm, but inside, I knew this peace wouldn't last long. I clicked open the email. A single line appeared before I could finish reading. "A representative will be sent to verify the sponsorship claim in person." The window pane trembled with the wind. I looked up. A black car had just parked in front of my gate. The car engine went silent, leaving a low vibration in the damp air after the rain. I looked through the curtain. A sleek black sedan stood outside the gate, reflecting the streetlight like a sheet of cold glass. The door opened, and a man in a dark suit stepped out. On envelope in Hunt, the silver letters on the badge pinned to his chest read, "The Ashbury Terrace, Compliance Division." The doorbell rang ting, ting. I opened the door slightly. Moist air drifted in, carrying the smell of wet asphalt and fallen maple leaves. "Sorry to bother you." "Ma'am," he said. "I'm Mr. Reed from the Contract Compliance Department. I need to verify a sponsorship record under your name." His tone was even and polite but hard as steel. I invited him to stay under the porch. The rain dripping from the eaves fell in steady beats, tack, 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 marking the seconds of silence. "I've already responded to your email." I said, "I didn't sign any agreement." He nodded slightly. "Yes. We received that. But your family has claimed that you gave verbal consent." Before I could answer, the sound of heels echoed from down the street. 3 figures approached quick. Deliberate. My mother. Diane. In a white knit dress. Her Dior perfume thick and sharp. Amber. Her shiny pink dress catching the streetlight. Sienna. Phone raised. Recording. Claire. "What have you done? You've made them come all the way here," Mom said. Her voice sweet, but her eyes cutting like blades. "It's just a misunderstanding," I replied calmly. "A misunderstanding," Amber scoffed. "You've always handled deposits for the family, haven't you?" Reed turned to me. "You've made similar payments before I helped," I said evenly. "Helping doesn't mean I'm bound forever." Mom's gaze flicked toward the neighbor's curtains, shifting. "They're watching. Don't embarrass the family again." Her words were sugar-coated knives. Reed opened the envelope and pulled out a document. "If you can sign this statement denying involvement, I'll close the report." Mom interrupted, her voice sharp as vinegar. "My eldest daughter calling in outsiders to mediate family issues shameful." Amber chuckled. "Mom, she just likes to make everything official. Anyway, it's not like the press will care if we keep quiet." I said nothing. My silence made them restless. My phone buzzed. The Mercer family. The group chat flashed on screen. Amber. "Don't pretend you transferred money before." Sienna. "You even wrote 'for family' in the notes." Diane. "Aren't you ashamed?" I turned off notifications and set the phone face down on the porch table. The clack echoed through the damp air. Across the street, Mrs. Daly, my elderly neighbor, opened her door. A few who's down. "Mr. Patterson folded his arms. Expression blank. No one spoke. But their presence was enough. I wasn't alone anymore. Reed glanced between us. "I'll note that there's no verbal confirmation." Wait, Mom's voice rose suddenly. "She's still holding family property, Grandma's bracelet. The only heirloom left." I frowned. "That bracelet was pawned to pay my daughter's hospital bill. I have the receipt." Mom narrowed her eyes. Her tone rehearsed like a line from a play. "If you refuse to cooperate, I'll have to call the police." Reed hesitated, glanced around, then dialed a number. 5 minutes later, sirens in the distance. Red-blue lights flashed across the fence. A chill ran down my spine. Knock, knock, knock. The knocks were firm, echoing. A tall man in a navy jacket stepped onto the porch. Officer Thompson. I recognized him. Ellie's former soccer coach. "Good evening, Miss Benton." His tone was professional and calm, but his eyes held regret. "We've received a report about a family dispute and a sponsorship claim." "Yes," I said. "It's all a misunderstanding. I have proof." He nodded. "Then I'll separate everyone for individual statements to keep things fair." Reed agreed. Mom huffed, shooting me a look so heavy with false disappointment it could fill a novel. The front yard had become a stage. Mom and my sisters stood near the sidewalk. Reed in the middle, and me on the porch. The officer stood between us. Pen ready. His radio crackling faintly. The air was thick rain, perfume, and shame all blending into one heavy scent. Officer Thompson began. "Mrs. Diane, do you have any written authorization or financial documents? Our family has always worked on trust," Mom said with a strained smile. He paused. "Then midair. Trust is not a legal instrument." "Ma'am." The sentence dropped like a stone into a pond. Amber jumped in. "She paid for us so many times before, that means she agreed." I smiled faintly. "Agreement is one thing. Coercion is another." Sienna lifted her phone. "See, she just admitted it." The officer extended a hand. Voice firm. "Turn it off." No recordings during an investigation. Sienna's lips tightened. She lowered the phone, glaring daggers at me. Reed spoke next. Matter of fact, according to our records, no deposit was ever made. Ms. Claire's name was attached by mistake. Officer Thompson looked up. Then the financial issue doesn't exist. I exhaled slowly. For the first time that night, the air leaned toward me. But Mom refused to yield. In that case, she said, she should return the bracelet. Grandma's heirloom belongs to this family. Ellie stood at the doorway, clutching her teddy bear, eyes wide with fear. Mommy, Grandma doesn't like me anymore. I pulled her close and stroked her hair. It's okay. Sweetheart, the officer turned to me, his tone soft but firm. Do you have records of previous financial assistance to clarify the pattern? Yes. I nodded toward the kitchen. I'm compiling them now. I can provide the file. He wrote a few notes, then addressed Reed. I recommend suspending all claims until verification is complete. Reed nodded. Agreed. Mom stood silent for a long moment. As the officer stepped down from the porch, she finally spoke. Claire, don't you understand? Family are the ones who stay when everyone else leaves. And you're burying yourself in those cold numbers. I met her eyes. Maybe that's because numbers are the only things that don't lie. For a brief second, something flickered in her gaze. Anger, then fear. Perhaps for the first time, she realized she no longer had power over me. She grabbed Amber and Sienna and left, the sound of heels striking concrete clack, clack, clack. Their car engine roared to life, taillights bleeding red before vanishing behind the trees. I closed the door. The cold, wet air dissolved into the kitchen's quiet warmth. Ellie stood by the table, staring at the laptop still open. The file boundaries, draft, XLSX glowed faintly, the cursor blinking in the final cell. I sat down, hands trembling slightly. Click. The auto-sum formula appeared. I pressed enter. A long column of numbers scrolled upward. When the final total appeared, my breath caught. I said nothing, just stared at a number larger than 3 years of my salary. The blue light from the laptop washed over my face, pale, cold as moonlight. I closed the laptop. Outside, Officer Thompson spoke quietly with Mrs. Daly, his voice low, fading into the night. Ellie tugged my sleeve. Mommy, are we safe now? I smiled faintly. Not yet, sweetheart. But soon, that night, after Ellie fell asleep, I reopened the Excel file. I added a new title, Evidence, Boundaries 2025. And at the very bottom, I typed one sentence. Everything began the moment I said no. And Frua. Portland held its breath as night fell. The pale blue light from my laptop cast my reflection calm, colorless. In the corner of the screen, a new email blinked. From attorney Robert Benson, subject meeting at 9:00 a.m. tomorrow, the Benton case. I set down my cold tea and drew a deep breath. Inside, Ellie slept soundly, her breathing soft as wind against the curtain. The Excel file boundaries, 2025. XLSX remained open. In the last cell, the bold number 23, 470 gleamed like a carved scar. I whispered, tomorrow, I'll start calling things by their real names. Morning draped the city in cold gray. The 10th floor of Benson and Carter Law Office was already lit. The air smelled of roasted coffee and fresh paper. Footsteps echoed against polished wood. A tall, silver-haired man shook my hand firmly. Robert Benson. Ruth told me a bit about your case. Did you bring the evidence I placed the USB on his desk? Everything's here. Receipts. Venmo screenshots. Hotel emails. And the boundaries file. He nodded and opened his laptop. Light reflected off his steel-rimmed glasses as he spoke. Voice steady and low. Mr. Benton. Truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to be recorded clearly. He scrolled through each column: date, reason, amount, status, a long chain of loans, temporary helps, and family emergencies. Finally, he looked up. $23,470. None of it reimbursed. I nodded, my throat tightening. We'll issue a cease and desist letter to the Mercer family, he said. Ban them from using or coercing your name in any transaction. We'll also notify the Ashbury Terrace to void the sponsorship. Outside the window, maple leaves swirled down in slow spirals. I don't want a VAR, I murmured. I just want them to stop. Benson smiled faintly. When you protect your boundaries, you're not fighting, you're simply ending your surrender. His fingers moved swiftly across the keyboard as he read aloud. Immediate termination of any use of the name Claire Benton in sponsorship or contract documents. Written acknowledgement that all prior arrangements lacked authorization. Response required within 48 hours. Or legal action will follow. Would you like to add anything, he asked. I thought of Ellie's birthday. The Princess Galaxy cake. And the single Venmo dollar I'd sent. I just want a public apology. And $1 in symbolic repayment. I said, so they'll remember this wasn't about money. He studied me. Eyes warm. That's how the strongest people reclaim their dignity. We sent the email at 10:22 a.m. to legal at Ashbury Terrace. Com CC management at Ashbury Terrace. Com subject cease and desist. Unauthorized sponsorship evidence attached. I wrote a brief note. My family has long confused kindness with obligation. I did not consent to any sponsorship. I'm simply reclaiming my boundaries. Whoosh. Sent. Benson leaned back. Now we wait. 1:07 p.m. A reply. From Margaret Linton, General Manager. The Ashbury Terrace subject apology and confirmation. I opened it. Heart quickening. We sincerely apologize for the verification error. The name Claire Benton has been removed from all materials and platforms. We appreciate your transparency. With your permission, we will issue a public apology. I forwarded it to Benson. He only said, keep it. Exhibit A. But soon, social media ignited. Amber's post. When your own family chooses humiliation over loyalty. Sienna's video, me carrying Christmas gifts. Captioned, honesty can lie to itself too. Cousins commented. So sad. Claire's not the same anymore. I didn't feel anger. Only exhaustion. Mom's message came last hundreds of words. An emotional indictment. You betrayed blood. You humiliated your mother. You let outsiders into family matters. Are you still my daughter? Claire, I didn't respond. Benson read it. Then said quietly, people invoke family to justify control. When you stop reacting, they're left alone with their own echoes. That afternoon I returned home. Ellie sat on the porch, drawing a new rainbow with purple chalk. Mrs. Daly arrived with a warm apple pie. You heard the news, she asked softly. We're proud of you. I just smiled. Aunt Ruth stood by her lavender bushes and nodded once, no words needed. They were there. Present. Steady. The phone rang. Diane. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Her voice was hoarse. Trembling. Stripped of its edge. What did you do? Claire. To make everyone turn against me. I looked at Ellie, her hands covered in chalk dust. Her smile bright. No one's turned on you. Mom. I said gently. It's just that light finally reached the place you let darkness speak for you. Silence. Then a sigh. Family is everything. Claire. And everything, I replied, is made of those who show up. That night, the hotel's public apology appeared on its homepage. A photo of the Ashbury Terrace beneath the headline, "We sincerely apologize to Ms. Blank, Claire Benton, for the unauthorized use of her name. We respect her integrity." Benson called, Do you want to pursue a defamation suit? I shook my head. No. One symbolic dollar and an apology are enough. He chuckled. That's what I call a dignified victory. Rain whispered against the roof. I sat at the table, listening. Ellie stuck glow-in-the-dark stars to the ceiling. What's your wish? Mommy, she asked. That silence will learn how to speak. I said. The next morning, the local paper ran a small story, A Mother's Integrity When No is a Form of Love. It didn't mention the Mercers. Only a woman who chose honesty over appeasement. Comments below read, I'm 40, and just learned to say no. Thank you for reminding me it's not too late. At noon, I drove through downtown. Amber's salon window bore a notice temporarily closed. Across the street, Sienna stood half hidden behind a utility pole. Phone pressed to her ear. Eyes red. I felt no triumph. Only balance. Lavender still bloomed, steady in the damp wind. That night I reopened the Excel file and added a new sheet return plan, $23. Subaitischer. Not to demand repayment, but to name each debt. So if they ever chose to repay, they'd know where to start. An email arrived from Amber's old address. Are you happy now? I typed back, I'm at peace. Then deleted it. Left it blank. Silence isn't surrender. It's truth speaking for itself. The next morning, while driving Ellie to school, a torn flyer, Suite 26, fluttered loose from a lamppost. At the nearby bulletin board, a new Whitmere Foundation poster shimmered under the sun. Family is presence. Not obligation. At a red light, I stopped. Across the street stood my mother, phone in hand. Shoulders trembling. I didn't honk. I let time speak for me. Morning sunlight slid across the glass facade of the Ashbury Terrace, glinting against a clear acrylic plaque etched with an apology. We sincerely apologize to Ms. Claire Benton for the unauthorized use of her name. People stopped to read. Some took photos. Some whispered. Some simply smiled a quiet nod, as if they already knew. Inside, hotel staff peeled away the old posters, stripping off each strip of tape marked Platinum Sponsor, Claire Benton. The soft tearing of paper echoed through the elegant lobby like the sound of a chapter closing. I stood on the sidewalk, watching through the glass, not stepping in. A breeze drifted by carrying the scent of coffee from the corner cafe, mingled with the faint rose perfume I dabbed on my neck that morning. The scent of calm. The young receptionist inside looked up, caught my gaze, and nodded politely. I returned the nod, then turned away, leaving behind the reflection of one word gleaming across the glass. Integrity. It felt like the final signature of the morning. In the Riverview neighborhood, the temporarily closed sign on Amber's salon window had begun to darken with dew. A regular customer stopped, read it, shook her head, and walked away. Through my window, I saw Sienna by the lamppost across the street, phone pressed to her ear, voice cracking no. I don't know. They said the brand can't partner with anyone tied to scandal. A gust of wind tangled her hair. No more live streams. No hashtags demanding justice for the Mercers. On this street, people didn't just listen, they watched. They saw who stood, who fell, and who managed to stand tall. That afternoon, Mrs. Daly brought over a cinnamon loaf warm, crisp, and fragrant. Officer Thompson dropped by. She said softly, "He talked to some parents at Ellie's school. Everyone said you did the right thing." I smiled, thanked her, and set the bread on the table. The cinnamon scent spread through the kitchen, sweet, faintly sharp like justice arriving quietly. On time. Outside, Mr. Patterson helped Aunt Ruth trim the lawn. He waved at me with a gentle smile. No one mentioned the case, but in their eyes, I saw what I needed. This little community had chosen the side of truth. By Friday afternoon, the notice board at St. Breen, John's church displayed a flyer. Reconciliation is the path of God. Right beneath it, someone had pinned another in black and white. Don't believe everything you hear about others. Aunt Ruth passed by and quietly removed a crude, anonymous note that read Bloodline Betrayer. She folded it and tossed it in the trash. I stood a few steps away and said, "Thank you, Aunt Ruth." She replied softly, "Good people don't need to shout to be defended." The next morning, I went to the farmer's market. Basket filled with apples and dried lavender. Amid the crowd, my mother appeared. Diane, her hair neatly pinned, in the old coat I once gave her, draped over her shoulders. "You won," she said, voice almost smiling, but not quite. Happy now. I set the basket down and met her gaze. I didn't win. Mom, I just chose to show up for Ellie. For a moment. The market buzzed around us. Yet the space between us felt motionless, as if the wind itself had stopped. She opened her mouth, but I was already walking away, my hand tight on the basket's handle. No anger. No pity. Only clarity. That evening, I opened my laptop and drafted one final email to my mother. "Amber and Sienna, please remove all insinuating posts and correct any public statements." Attached is the official apology link from the Ashbury Terrace. For reference, no accusation, no explanation, just facts. I hit send, then closed the lid. No social post, no announcement. Silence, but recorded. On Sunday, the neighbors invited me and Ellie to a small backyard potluck. The air smelled of baked bread and rain-damp earth. Children laughed. A basketball thumped softly on wet cement. James, my coworker, arrived carrying a handmade wooden shelf. "Thought this would fit your corner wall," he said, setting it down gently. As if not to disturb the peace, Ellie ran up, hugging me tight. The scent of cinnamon in her hair mingled with the freshness of new wood. "Mommy, there are so many people here." She giggled. "Yes," I said, smiling, "because everyone who's here means it." Sunlight spilled across the yard, golden and clear. I looked around Aunt Ruth chatting with Mrs. Daly, Mr. Patterson arranging food, and James stringing lights along the fence. I didn't need a perfect family. I already had a community that listened. That night, Ellie and I pinned our new weekly calendar on the fridge. Friday, movie night. Sunday, park day. She looked up at me, eyes bright. "Mom, do we have enough now?" I kissed her forehead. Enough and the right people. Outside, Amber's salon sign stayed dark. The Sweet 26 flyers fluttered in the drizzle. Streetlights shimmered across puddles as if the past were erasing itself. I smiled softly and turned off the lights. The house was quiet, but that quiet was alive. The next morning, I found a white envelope in the mailbox. Inside was a handwritten card. The parent council would like to invite Miss So, Claire Benton, to serve as financial advisor for the local scholarship program. And at the bottom, in purple ink, "Thank you, Ellie's mom, for showing us that kindness isn't weakness." I laughed quietly. Sometimes karma doesn't punish it, simply rearranges the world, placing honest hearts where they belong. Monday morning sunlight slipped through the curtains, falling softly across the wooden shelf James had built for the living room corner. On it sat books Ellie had arranged by the colors of the rainbow. A small lavender vase releasing a gentle scent, and a neatly pinned note that read, "Friday movie night. Sunday, park day." The hum of the coffee maker mixed with the sound of a pencil scratching across paper. I realized then peace wasn't magic. It was a habit, built from small morning rituals. In the backyard, Mrs. Daly was teaching Ellie how to bake cookies. "Remember, stir slowly, let the dough breathe." She laughed. Mr. Patterson knelt by the porch steps. Tightening the hinge, he said, squeaked too much. Aunt Ruth brought over a new lavender pot, and placed it beside the row of plants my mother had once planted. "For the empty spot," she said. I looked around. These people weren't family by blood, but they were truly present. At noon, I opened the white envelope that had arrived that morning. Inside was a letter from the Riverview Parent Council. We would be honored if Ms. Claire Benton would serve as financial advisor for the Community Scholarship Fund. At the bottom, in purple ink, a handwritten note. "Thank you, Ellie's mom, for teaching us that kindness isn't weakness." The first meeting took place in the small school library. Yellow-painted walls, wooden tables, plastic chairs. A short-haired parent with glasses asked, "Do you think boundaries in a community should be as clear as in a family?" I smiled. "I think the clearer they are, the easier it is to love honestly." The room chuckled softly. The air lightened, but their eyes had changed. No longer curious, but trusting. That night, I sat again by my laptop. Opening return plan. Kaksikumenta kolme. Subaitisher. Each line was once a temporary favor. Now, each one was a lesson in value. I didn't delete them. I added a new column. What I learned. Next to 850 Christmas gifts. I typed "learn to give" without losing myself. Then, I created a new savings account. Stargazer Fund Ellie's future education. Typing auto transfer. $300 divided by month sounded like a lock closing on an old chapter. The house glowed in warm honey light. Aunt Ruth texted, "If they want to talk, I'll be there. But only if you really want it." I smiled, then opened my notebook and wrote a letter I didn't send. "Dear Mom, I've stopped blaming you. I just want you to know. My door will always be open, but it's a door that knows how to lock. If one day you come, knock as a guest, not as someone with ownership." I folded the letter and placed it in the drawer beside Grandma's ring, the one I'd once pawned and later bought back with my year-end bonus. The following week, Ellie prepared her school presentation, My Hero. She drew two people holding hands under a sky full of stars. At the top, she wrote, "My mom taught me that love doesn't hurt." I felt my throat tighten. "You came up with that yourself?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "You said it that day we baked cookies." I didn't remember saying it. Maybe it had just slipped out. But she had remembered. One afternoon, I came across a vague online post, something about people pretending to be virtuous. I didn't need to guess who wrote it. I took a screenshot and said nothing. James noticed my expression and changed the subject. "Ellie won the school art contest. We should celebrate with pizza." I laughed. Maybe that was the perfect comfort, ordinary and genuine. Saturday afternoon. Maple Park basked in golden light. The trees cast long shadows across the grass. The air scented with wet wood and cinnamon from a nearby pop-up cafe. Ellie threw the basketball first shot. Straight in. "You're stronger now," I cheered. She ran over. Hair messy. Smiling wide. "Mom, can we have my birthday here this year?" Like a picnic, I looked around the open sky. True friends. And my daughter's laughter. "Yes," I said. "Here. With the right people." The sunset painted her yellow shirt in gold. I snapped a photo not for social media, but to keep proof that peace could be beautiful. That night, when we came home, there was another white envelope in the mailbox. "No sender listed." I almost opened it, then stopped. The handwriting in the corner was familiar, Diane M. I sat on the porch step, breathing in. The letter felt just heavy enough in my hand. Ellie ran out and hugged me. "Read it." "Mommy, maybe it's a thank you." I smiled. "Tomorrow. Some words need time to be heard right." She nodded, pulling me inside. On the wall, Ellie's glow-in-the-dark stars still shone softly. We sat together in quiet, outside. The wind carried Aunt Ruth's lavender scent, a gentle reminder. Some wounds don't need to be forgotten. They just need to turn into something fragrant. A year later, on Ellie's 10th birthday morning, I finally opened the envelope. Inside was a $50 bill and a small note. Happy birthday, sweetheart. From Grandma this time. With no conditions. And I understood even winter knows how to apologize. If we're patient enough to wait for flowers to bloom again. 1 year later, morning in Portland tasted like honey waffles, coffee, and the soft wind from Maple Park drifting through the window. On the wall, the photo titled, Our Family Still Hung There Me. Ellie, Aunt Ruth, James, Mrs. Daly, and Mr. Patterson. Our smiles glowed under golden light. Today, Ellie turned 10. I woke early and set the breakfast table a plate of fruit, waffles, and one white envelope in the center. It had stayed in my drawer for 12 months. The words, Diane M., faded beneath a layer of dust. Ellie bounded down the stairs. Hair tousled. Eyes bright. Mom, can we open it today? I nodded. Today's the day. I pulled out the letter. Inside was a carefully folded $50 bill and a short handwritten note. Happy birthday, sweetheart. This time, no conditions. Grandma. That was all. No apology. No explanation. I said nothing. Only folded it back and handed the money to Ellie. Put it in your Stargazer fund. She looked up. From Grandma, yes. I said, maybe that's her way of saying happy birthday. Ellie slipped the bill into the bank envelope. Her face serious as if guarding treasure. I'll let it grow with me, she said, smiling a calm, steady smile that told me every wound from last year had finally healed. By noon, we set up our picnic table at Maple Park. The grass shimmered silver green in sunlight. On the table sat the rainbow cake Ellie had decorated herself. Aunt Ruth arranged small lavender jars around the edge, the scent floating softly through the air like a lullaby. Mrs. Daly brought apple pie. James carried his guitar. Mr. Patterson handled the photos. Laughter mingled with birdsong and the rhythmic bounce of basketballs nearby. When Ellie blew out her candles, she whispered her wish. I wish our family would always stay like this, enough people. Enough love. No one spoke. We just clapped. I looked at her and saw, reflected in her eyes, a child who had learned how to stand tall in real love. At the far end of the park, near the oak trees, I saw my mother Diane standing still. She wore a gray coat and held a small bouquet of lavender. She didn't come closer, didn't call my name, just watched. Aunt Ruth noticed and glanced at me. I took a slow breath, then nodded gently, not inviting, not rejecting. Mom placed the lavender on the grass and walked away. Slow and composed, the wind lifted the purple petals, scattering them through the sunlight. And I understood some apologies don't arrive in words, they arrive when someone finally stops at the right distance. As the party ended, James said, one last photo, just you and Ellie. I sat down. Ellie's arm wrapped around my shoulders. Behind us, on the stone walkway, faint rainbow chalk marks from last year still lingered, faded, but not gone. Smile, James said, pressing the shutter. Click. Simple. Perfect. I looked at the picture, 2 hands clasped. An open sky behind us. No one is missing from the frame this time. Back home. I placed the new photo beside the old one. 2 years. 2 rainbows. One of sorrow. One of peace. I opened my laptop and added one more entry to the Stargazer fund. 加1美元. 00. For respect. No sender name. Just an automated system line. I stared at the number and smiled. Maybe somewhere, someone else was also learning how to love without hurting. That night, Ellie read in bed while I wrote the final lines in my journal. Sometimes justice isn't punishment. It's a morning where you no longer fear the knock at your door. Family isn't where you're born, it's who stays after the noise fades. I closed the journal and turned off the light. Outside, the night wind passed through the blooming lavender, carrying a scent that felt like gratitude itself. Quiet but complete. I needed nothing more. Silence has a sound when truth stands firm. Family is presence, not obligation.